All right, welcome to another episode of LearnBiz The Podcast. I am one half of the co-host here. I'm Lisa K, and I'm joined by the lovely Sandy B, who is also the guest. Hey, Sandy, how are you today?
Good morning, Lisa. I'm excited about being a guest on our own show.
Isn't that lovely? Yes, we're absolutely excited to have you here. You know, Sandy, we can never talk enough about planning. And so we're going to talk about estate planning today. And to get started with this topic, we want you to tell us about your career, your background, and about estate planning. So I'm going to say it like this, Sandy, because I don't know any other way to say it. Who are you?
That is like my favorite intro of this show. So I am a former nonprofit community outreach person. I am a former public school teacher and I taught middle school science. I am an entrepreneur at heart. When I started law school, I wanted to be a solo practitioner. So I decided as soon as I got out of law school, I was going to take that bar card and run with it. And I am now a law firm owner who just hit 5 years in practice. I'm an attorney who is about to hit 7 years in practice. So I have a lot of different little hats that I've worn over the years. But my most important job is I am the auntie to a 15-year-old character who is autistic and has given me another thing to add on my list, which is an autism advocate. So that's just me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, and thanks for showing just exactly how well-rounded you are. You know, so many times people look at a lawyer and they just think lawyer, but we are multifaceted people. And yes, we know you are a great auntie and a great advocate for autism. Hey, Rigo. Rigo's reaching out to us. We appreciate your support as usual.
Good morning,
Um,
Rigo.
yes, good morning. So, Sandy, let's talk about. I do want to talk about your advocacy work as well, but let's get into why you chose the area of estate planning to focus on. Out of all the things that you could have decided to focus on coming out of law school, you chose this area. Why?
You know, it's interesting. When I got into law school, I had no clue what area I was going to find myself in because the only area that I really understood in law was, immigration. Of course, my family, are immigrants. And, criminal law, of course, we all see that. And maybe personal injury. Those are the areas that really stood out to me. But when I went into school, I thought I was going to litigate. I was doing the competitions and stuff. Even my first semester in law school, my partner and I, we won the mock trial competition. So I'm like, man, I might be, a criminal attorney or somebody that's going to be in a courtroom. But throughout law school, I was exploring different things. So I would study intellectual property law and family law and all of the different areas. But it wasn't until my last year of law school, I think this was literally my last semester in law school, my last term. I was taking the estate planning clinic. Didn't really know much about estate planning aside from, documents being had. Learned a little bit as well about incapacity and guardianship. And my very first client is what made me fall in love with estate planning. She was an older lady who had adult children, and she wanted to get her affairs in order. But the key for her was she was giving her children everything now before anything happens. But she still wanted to get her documents in place, just in case, just to make sure everything was good. So, she taught me this concept of peace of mind, giving your family an understanding of what your intentions are, but at the same time, doing some things now to establish who's going to receive what. That way, no one has to argue later. And ever since then, I mean, that story has stuck in my head. This woman was a very colorful woman. She used to wear those glittery caps. Our elders tend to have a flashy style about them, and they wear their makeup and stuff. And I just fell in love with the idea. And then I was like, well, with estate planning, I can do what I love to do anyway, which is educate. I'm an educator at heart. I started off in the nonprofit world educating, going out in the community, doing outreach. So it really just pulled in the things that I enjoyed doing. And then I could do it myself, right? I didn't have to work for anybody. I could really make it happen myself. So that's the early start. It wasn't something that was planned. I had no clue.
Wow. That's interesting how just one case can open up a whole new facet to your practice, and there you go. So, what do you love about staying in this area? Is it a passion for you to practice in estate planning? And what do you want people to know about the importance of estate planning?
I very much think it is a passion for me. I truly enjoy the opportunity of providing people with an understanding and giving them some options that allow them to be in control of tomorrow. And we can't control all things, but what I like to describe this as, estate planning is comprehensive planning. You're looking at all of the different aspects of your life, and you're identifying things that you can make decisions about now, and you're also making decisions about things that could potentially happen. And that's what makes the difference between you just going to someone who's creating documents versus going to someone who is working with you comprehensively to identify areas that may be of concern, which is why I also do probate and guardianship. It gives me the other side, because if you don't have your documents in place, there's certain things that happen in the probate and guardianship court that create issues. And being able to see the issues on both sides, I think it helps me a lot in improving my planning over time.
That's very important. And I think, when we work in these fields, these different areas, practice areas, we take for granted a lot of the terminology and that type of thing. So I think I just want to step back just a little bit to make sure that people really understand what you do in these practice areas of guardianship and estate planning.
Right.
So, for instance, can you define what is probate and what is probate court?
So, probate is the court process that allows us to first identify someone has passed away and they have whatever items that they owned in their name only, and identifying who are the proper people to receive whatever it is that that person had when they passed away. So, it's a court process. It helps you kind of go through certain steps. And then ultimately, the court is going to provide some paperwork that will allow you to access whatever you need to access, or at least give you the power or the authority to receive whatever it is that your loved one had. The probate court is basically broken up into a lot of different, I would almost say a lot of different sections, because here in South Florida, the probate court encompasses guardianship, and it also encompasses mental health, the Marchment Act, the Baker Act, and all of those types of processes. So all of those are kind of under the probate umbrella. The big issue is identifying someone who has passed away. And then on the guardianship side, it's also a court process. And the point is to figure out if somebody is actually incapacitated, because somebody's coming to the court saying, my loved one can't handle their medical or their financial affairs. Like, they can't handle things on their own, and they need someone to help them and to have some paperwork to be able to do so. So guardianship allows you to go through the same process, the living side, and you basically have someone who is appointed as your guardian to be able to access things like your financial care and your medical care. The way that estate planning fits, I almost want to say it's like having a coin. Estate planning is the middle, the meat of the coin, and guardianship and probate on either side. Guardianship is the living side. So if you're incapacitated, or better yet, unable to handle your needs on your own, you're going to be on the guardianship side, and you're going to have paperwork to go there. If you pass away, you're going to be on the probate side. If you have your documents in order, we're on the estate planning piece. That means you'll avoid guardianship if you can, and you'll avoid probate. So that's like a visual that I can give you.
Now, the easiest way to avoid probate, because as you know, Attorney Boisrond, not a lot of folks have money to necessarily go and open up a probate court estate, and have that estate administered. People don't have money for that, but yet they need to get property transferred into their names. Is there an easy way to get this done without having to come up with so much money to retain lawyers? Not that you shouldn't make tons and tons of money, but it can be expensive for some families.
I mean, I think people need to understand that when you fail to plan, you're basically setting yourself up to spend more. Okay. So if you don't plan now, you're going to pay later. So what I would say is this: what probate minimization allows you to do, right? Estate planning is probate minimization. It's minimizing your need to deal with court processing. Um, your attorney should be sitting down with you and going through all of the different aspects of your life, coming up with different questions to make sure that they get from you the most information so that your plan is as rock solid as it can be. Now, is the plan going to be perfect? No. Can there be people that will contest? Absolutely. Whether you have a trust or a will, same thing. You can have someone that steps forward and say, I don't agree. Here is why. And so the goal is to do as many things as you can. That's why estate planning is not just the documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's beneficiary designations, prenups, postnups, identifying if you have life insurance beneficiaries, if you have a pension or 401k or all of those things, if you have digital assets, if you're a YouTuber and getting money, or if you you're in the metaverse and you're making monies in different spaces, it's important for you to be able to identify what happens to those things in the event that something happens to me.
Right. And it's just planning ahead. And, some people are superstitious. They think if you plan, that means something's going to happen. And, we just have to get out of some of these superstitions and just plan and know that that's wise. That if you don't plan, what's that saying? Something, if you don't, you plan to fail.
Pretty much. If you don't plan, then you're basically planning to fail.
Exactly. So we have to plan, and that's where Attorney Boisrond comes in. She works in this area of estate planning. If people want to reach you, just to say, look, I don't even know where to start, and they just want to consult with you for an hour to talk about what type of estate planning they need, how do they reach out to you? How do they contact you?
Truth be told, I'm going to put up the website. This is the easiest way to get all of my information. You can look at previous things that I've done. You can contact the office. The phone number's there. You can schedule an appointment on your own online. This is the best way to reach me: www.thespectrumlawfirm.com. And there's multitude of reasons. A lot of times people are shopping for an attorney. They want to know more about the lawyer.
Yes.
Go to the website. You can learn a little bit about my background, what my license, where I'm licensed, what types of areas that I handle. I am going through some changes and upgrades in my firm. So you will be seeing some changes soon, and I'll be adding some new features and things like that. Ultimately, I will tell you this: I am looking to streamline my process to the point where I'll have an online option for someone to create their estate planning, which will not necessarily be at a discount, but it definitely will save you a little bit because there's a little bit less of interaction in that process. But I love using technology. So sometimes people DM me on social media. You'll find my social media on the website as well.
Awesome. And that is www.thespectrumlawfirm.com. A big good shout out to Doug this morning. How you doing, Doug? Thank you so much for joining us here on LearnBiz The Podcast. We definitely appreciate your support.
Good
Now,
morning,
Sandy,
Doug.
yes. Now, Sandy, we know that you are a well-rounded person, so I have to pick up one or two of your other interests. Let's talk about autism awareness. What kind of joy you get out of working in this area, and how your nephew has kind of opened up a new world for you with regard to outreach and support in this area.
So definitely, my nephew started to show signs of autism when he was about, I'd say, roughly 2.5 years old. He started to have certain behaviors and patterns, and I I would say that I kind of became the advocate for my family at that point in time because, while my brother was trying, my brother's a single parent. So, him trying to raise his son on his own and us being, the family that we are, it automatically put us all into a different position. So my mom and I give my nephew that, female figure that he's technically missing. Obviously, it's not the same as having your mom present, but that is kind of the role that I stepped into. And with that also became an aggressive, I have to find resources. My brother's going to deal with the nonsense of the systems, but I had to find stuff because I wanted to make sure that my nephew had certain opportunities. And so with that opened up a whole world of trying to figure out what autism is, how it impacts our community, how can I educate, So it caused me to really step into a position of doing presentations and talking about autism from a family member slash caregiver perspective. Obviously, I'm not autistic. Well, not obvious, but I'm not autistic, at least not to my knowledge. So I don't know it from the feeling perspective, from the inner part. But I do understand what the challenges are, and it gives me a little bit of a extra compassion for families that come to me, who are dealing with, having a loved one who is autistic, trying to maneuver systems. So I spend a lot of time educating people. People contact me just to get resources. People contact me just for guidance and, what do I do? How do I deal with this? And again, I'm always stressing, I'm not the parent. I'm not the autistic person, but I am someone who has a passion for making sure that people can access the services that they need. And also people can have a helping hand and an ear. Because one of the major issues with autism is people just don't know what it is. Autism is a developmental condition, and it impacts communication. It impacts sensory awareness. It impacts the ability to interact with the world the way the rest of us do. And so you'll a lot of times see the words different, not less, because those who are autistic see the world and interact with the world and communicate with the world in a different way. So it just really has created a different thing for me. And those who know me know my nephew. That's all I can say.
Yes, we definitely know your wonderful nephew, and I know that he probably should be taking singing lessons because he has a great voice.
Look, he's about to get down with right now he has a keyboard that was gifted by one of our cousins. And when I say that little boy's getting down on his little keyboard, and then the other day I had him doing something on the xylophone. We were at a park, and I was like, man, I think he's feeling the sounds.
He's
So
doing
right now
that.
I'm working. I need to find him. Anybody know a good piano teacher that can come to the house? We in South Florida. Please let me know.
That is really, really nice. And so, Sandy, how do you kind of put that all together? Like, you're able to help other parents who have autistic children and family members too, even on the legal side. Can you
Right.
tie that in how you're able to help them legally as well?
Yeah, so the social side of it is because I've done a lot of digging and found resources on my own. I help folks no matter where they are try to figure out in their community where they can find resources for their child. And I'm not so much talking about the resources that everybody will access eventually. I'm talking about social community stuff, right? Stuff in
Okay.
your city and your county, sports activities, music, dance, therapies, those types of things. When it connects to the law, a lot of my autistic families, we're dealing with guardianship. When a child turns 18, even though they have a developmental disability and they may not be able to communicate or basically take care of themselves, they are an adult. The law doesn't recognize any kind of special protections for them. They become an adult. And so the parents have to put a guardianship in place to be able to speak on their child's behalf. So you could be going to the doctor with your child till they're 18. Once they turn 18, certain things are going to happen. And if the doctor's doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're going to say to you, you're going to need to provide us with documentation. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to speak with you. So the guardianship process is one that I go through with my adult autistic families. And that's how really the connection has kind of spread. So now I do educate families on special needs trusts, which are typically called more like supplemental needs trusts. I talk to them about special needs planning, some of the things that are special considerations for those who have children on the autism spectrum. So it's a really, really different place. And it's something that we have to make sure that people are as educated as they can, because incidence of autism has increased tremendously. I want to say right now it's either 1 in 54 children. It could be lower. It could be like 1 in 47. I don't remember if the number has changed.
Oh,
But that number has drastically changed since my nephew
oh,
was originally diagnosed almost 13 years ago.
that's really something. Do we know where it even comes from? Where autism, what causes the onset?
I
Uh,
mean, truth be told, I hear so many different stories. I couldn't tell you where it comes from. I think that there are a lot of factors in our lifestyles these days, whether it be the food that we eat, the chemicals that are in our space. I think there's a lot of things. Could be genetic, could be dietary issues. During mom's pregnancy, there's
yeah.
so many issues. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is, unfortunately, because autism often appears with other conditions, so you tend to have dual diagnoses, you'll have a lot of autistics who have mental health issues. You have a lot of autistics that have epilepsy, digestive conditions, ADHD, all kinds of other conditions. So sometimes it's really difficult for folks to know autistic or not, which is why you can't look at someone and tell. Someone looks at my nephew, it's like, until he does something, you're not going to be able to tell that he's autistic.
Very, very interesting. And so I know we have to wrap up here, but can you just give some final words and thoughts about entrepreneurism and being in this space as an attorney entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I would say one of the most important things, if you want to be an attorney who is taking, you're hanging your own shingle, you have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to believe that you are capable more than you think. Oftentimes we second guess ourselves, we question ourselves. And truth be told, if I could have told you that 5 years in that I'd have a practice that is 5 years old, right? If I could have told you that I'd be practicing for 7 years, I'm going into year 8. The time has flown. And I've learned a lot through some hard lessons, and it's not an easy thing, but if you do maintain a level of confidence and appreciation in your skills and abilities, endless the things that you're able to do. And this profession, unfortunately for us as Black people, can be extremely challenging because we haven't seen some of the things that we end up dealing with in the system.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for folks like you, Lisa, for a lot of my Black entrepreneurs who are really doing this thing and making it happen. And I want to make sure we get to Doug's comments before I jump off here. Doctors have been fighting for years to expose pharmaceutical companies for the mercury in many of the vaccines causing Black children to have autism. I'm a firm, my belief, and I'm not going to mention it on here, but I do have a firm belief that there are some things that are being dismissed in our medical field that, to me, when I look at my nephew and the things that happened to him, no one can tell me it's not. But I won't say that out loud. I'll say that in private. But it's a large cover up by the pharmaceutical companies and the government. Doug, I'm going to tell you the truth. I do believe that there are some things that just don't make sense, and no one can make it make sense for me. And this is from someone who's watched a child from birth to present day. So that's all I can
Very,
say.
very interesting. Well, yeah, we watch as well as pray. That's all I got to say. You know what I mean? So, Miss Sandy Boisrond, attorney Sandy Boisrond of the Spectrum Law Firm. And we want to thank you so much for coming on here, precious time to talk about what you do every day in the real world, in addition to being a podcaster and co owner of LearnBiz LLC. Thank you for all you do, and even in the world of autism awareness and support. Thank you for everything. Attorney Sandy Boisron. Have a great day.
Likewise. And guys, catch us on Instagram. We're going to come on Instagram live. Just check us out. Make sure you click our notification bell so you can see when we pop up, because we'll do that periodically. Have a great day,
Yes.
guys.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye
Bye.
bye.